Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and I have two special guests on the program today, Matt Hockett and Erin McDaniel.
Hi.
And I want to say, with USD 373 Newton Schools Committee to vote yes for the school bond, but I don't know if that's technically correct, so I want to just hand it over to either one of you that wants to talk just briefly a little bit about maybe what is this committee called?
Our committee is called Our Children, Our Schools, Our Future. And that was the label that the committee chose to best encompass what we're trying to achieve for the future of our community.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so I'm glad I didn't try to memorize that. Because I'd be like, oh, man, I don't know. So I probably had to mess that up 3 or 4 times before we got it right. But, okay, so the first thing that I do on the program, everybody knows who watches it, that people come on the program and there's a portion of time that they talk about where they came from, where they grew up, what they did in school, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, I mean, I just kind of want to hand it over to both of you to talk about, if you'd like, where you came from, right? Did you go to Newton schools? Are you from Newton originally? Or, are you transplant? And then ultimately, what position do you serve in the committee?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, yeah, like Lance said, my name is Matt Hockett. I am born and raised in Newton, Kansas. So I attended Lincoln Elementary School, which is now an apartment complex. Then went to Santa Fe Middle School and then Newton High School. Graduated in 2002. At that time, I moved out to Colorado and went to the Art Institute of Colorado out there. I was out there for about 6-7 years and then moved back to the Newton community and have been back since. So yeah, I've gone through the district. I was very heavily involved through high school and all the organizations, student council, all the clubs, everything like that. And then, yeah, coming back, I started a career here in Newton in construction. I've been in construction for about the past 15 years doing that. And just here recently taken more of an active role in getting plugged in with what's going on in the community as well as what's going on in the district. So over the past 2 to 3 years, really been taking an interest in what's going on in our district. And main reason for that is I have a 15-year-old stepson that's currently at the high school. And then I have a 6-year-old who is in kindergarten. And I have a 2-year-old that we're planning on sending through the system as well. So I've got an older one that's been all the way through, middle school, elementary school, now high school, and about to send more through. So I think it's a really important thing to step in right now and start taking some proactive steps to take what I've learned from my 15-year-old and help guide and direct and shape a better future for my younger ones.
Okay, I gotta ask you a quick question before we turn over to Erin. You said you moved away and you came back.
Yep.
Why that?
It's home. There's just something about home. All my family is here. All my family has gone through here. So my sister went through all the district as well. Same with my mom, my grandparents. So I have a long lineage of Newton, and I've seen time and time again of where we have talent that grows up in Newton and then ventures away, and that leaves a huge hole within our community. So initially it was family brought me back, but what's kept me here is I know that there's a need for concerned citizens to stay informed and a part of the community to build Newton and not just abandon it. So
Very good. I like that. I always wonder why people leave and come back.
Yeah.
Usually it's because it's home.
Yeah, so it's home, but yeah, like I said, there is an amazing future for Newton. I truly believe that a lot of what's going on in our community is steering us in a really positive direction. So yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to help shape that, guide that, be an active participant in any which way I can. Whatever my community needs from me, I want to be available to be there for them.
Yeah. Okay, Erin, are you a Newtonian through and through, or are you a transplant?
Yeah. I'm a Newtonian as well. I was born and raised here in Newton and went to South Breeze Elementary Well, I started out in country school, and they closed right after my kindergarten year. But I went to Southbreeze and Chisholm Middle School and Newton High School, class of 1998. And I left Newton to go to college in Lawrence at KU. And I, too, decided after a few years living in Lawrence and working there to move back to Newton. It is home for me as well, and my family is here. And this is where I wanted to raise my family when I was thinking about that in my future. So now I do have a daughter who's in 7th grade at Chisholm right now. And since I've moved back to Newton, I've tried hard to get involved in the community and volunteer in various ways to try to improve the community, improve my daughter's schools through PTA and things like that, and just try to make a positive difference. I feel like Newton is a great place to live. It's, in the Wichita metro area. It's a right-sized community for me. It's like not too small and not too big. And I think we have a tremendous potential to be better. We're kind of right on the cusp right now of some really encouraging growth in terms of economic development and industry and commercial development and housing. And so many things are right on the cusp of exploding for us in a positive way. And so I think the bond is part of that. And we really need this to happen for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I don't think you answered. I kind of asked a two-part question, but this committee was formed. So what role are you in? Are you on the board or what?
Yeah. So kind of how this committee got started this is kind of the culmination of about 2 years worth of work. So it originally started with a 50-person committee that the district hired outside consultant RSP to come in, start talking about this bond issue, identifying some key things, start shaping it and kind of discussing what this bond was going to entail. So it started with that. Once that was wrapped up, then there was the need to continue the momentum of it. So there were a handful that were asked to kind of stick around, keep working on it. And then from there, it got whittled down to 3 of us really felt compelled to kind of take the reins and get an official vote yes committee started. So myself, Erin, and then Morgan Simmering are the executive board committee. So we 3 kind of organized it, and then from there we have different departments essentially that we organize that are made up of volunteers within the community. So there's obviously fundraising, there's voter registration, there's social media, all of that. So we have several different committees within our committee, but Erin, Morgan, and myself kind of head that up and organize that.
What's yours specifically, Matt? What of those 3? Just social media?
Well,
no, we're like co-chairs.
Yep.
Okay.
The 3 of us.
So
and then each committee has kind of
a head.
a head of
So
each.
there's a plan, an umbrella, and then obviously then that's broken not down into 3 because you're all working in unison with one another, but there's these subcommittees that take place, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, very cool.
So we have a larger group. It's not just the 3 of
Yeah.
us
Yeah,
I was
trying
gonna
to.
ask
A
about
much
that.
larger
Well,
group.
and I was going to ask. I was going to say, I like volunteers wise. Have you all experienced that there is a group of people, maybe even a large group of people that are in support of this and are asking how they can volunteer in some way?
100%. Yeah.
Have you been surprised by that?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because to take that leap of faith and be bold and publicly say I'm going to support this. There has been some surprise on the willingness to step into that light. So yes, I've been surprised by that, but no as well, because this is desperately needed. I don't think that it's any secret that we are in need of some serious help. So on one hand, yes. On the other hand, no.
Yeah. Same, Erin?
Yeah, I think our community is seeing that it's time. It's time for us to have a bond passed in Newton to make some improvements. Districts around us in the region have been making big investments in their school districts, and they're seeing really positive growth out of it in their communities. And Newton will fall behind if we don't step up.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get real technical here, okay? I'm going to ask you some technical questions. Okay. And I just have to say, anytime that there's something going on, whether it be an organization or a group that wants to go and better the community, many hands make light work. And something that I've seen and kind of struggle with is a lot of times there's not a lot of hands, right? There's the same hands in all of these different capacities, and people get tired, or they kind of pick and choose.
Out.
So to see that there are people that are getting together, right, that are saying, well, how do I help in whatever capacity I can, I think is encouraging. So on that's just my opinion, right?
Yep.
So a question that I wanted to ask was, and I think this is a big one for a lot of people, what exactly is in this bond, and what does it hope to address? And I don't mean for you to know every single the nuts and bolts of what but kind of what generally speaking, what is this? I've heard this. It's to address end of life issues. I know I've heard this before, not from you all in particular, and I'm not saying that's what you will say, but what are some of the things that are going to be included in this bond?
So I the first thing that was very encouraging for me on this is that every school, every facility that has students a part of it is going to be touched by this bond. So there's not going to be a building that's left out or forgotten. So for me, that was a big highlight in this, that every single one of those facilities, something was going to be addressed. So that's first and foremost. But yes, end of life and life cycles was a very big theme throughout this, through the duration of this process, and then from previous experience. One of the underlying themes that the community has said time and time again is we need to take care of what we have. So there was a lot of effort and a lot of meticulous detail went into identifying specifically what each of those facilities needed, saying that these are the most important, these are the most critical, kind of assigning a priority of this takes first and foremost precedence in this facility, and then working our way down at each of those facilities. So this bond, it really tackles all of those issues in those areas. So it is very, very heavy on taking care of the current facilities that we have, and not just putting Band-Aids on them, but getting them brought up to current standards, getting them brought to a place to where moving forward, once these issues are addressed, that there's a clear plan of the future of we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence in taking care of them, that there's a maintenance plan that goes forward in longevity to keep them up to par. I mean, really, that's what it's about.
Erin, what's your take on it?
Yeah, the end of life items are really important. That's especially the HVAC systems and the roof improvements that are in the bond. There's also a series of safety and security measures that are in this bond. So we'll be creating code compliant storm shelters at all the schools, including some schools that have no shelter at all right now. Also interior classroom locks, intruder locks for classrooms. Unfortunately, this is a big issue, and a lot of our teachers and students don't feel secure for situations like that. And that will touch every single school. There are also some classroom renovations planned for the high school to bring those 1970s classrooms into the modern age, the science labs and the culinary arts areas. Culinary arts is one aspect of our CTE program at the high school that has really taken off, and they have had to turn students away from that program because of really increased interest in that program.
And we just don't have the facilities to support that. So that's really giving not just what our community want, but what our students want. This is what they are asking, to be a part of. And it's heartbreaking to sit there and say, I'm sorry, we don't have the facilities for that. So
right. It's not the home ec lessons of our youth.
This is a CTE program that has very specific curriculum that's been developed that sets them up for a future in that industry, and man, just think about the possibilities. If we take the time now to set them up for that success, then what's one of the main topics that we in Newton always talk about? We don't have any restaurants. Well, we're not doing anything to develop it, so imagine a young entrepreneur that has the opportunity to step into that program here in Newton, get the education, continue that education in a college atmosphere, and then be able to come back home and say, this is where I was born and raised. I want to set something up here, so everybody wins in that scenario.
Yeah. Are there some other issues, Erin? Or?
Well, there are also things like at Chisholm Middle School, there's some bathrooms and locker rooms that have not been touched since the 1950s. So these are things that are well overdue for upgrades and improvements. And I would just say the full list of planned projects and the costs associated with those are all available on the school district's website, which is usd373.org/bond 2026.
Yeah, and speaking of that information that people can go and access, and I hope you say that a couple more times, or you guys say, because I think it's important that this is just a way to hear or learn more about this bond, but there's no way we can cover everything on it, right? So if somebody needs to be informed, the information is there. In fact, I just saw a flyer come in my mail, right? And if I'm not mistaken, it's going to bring me to the next question, and I'll direct this at Erin here. This for somebody that's asking, how much is this bond going to cost me, right? So, before, in your guys' opinion, just a quick yes or no, is this a bond that is just throwing in all the bells and whistles, or is this a bond that is very just needed stuff and not really a whole lot more?
Yeah, this bond in particular is about needs, not wants. It has been trimmed down. It has been right-sized to our community to keep those costs down for taxpayers and to make sure that we're addressing the things that are really needed, not just someone's wish list or pet project.
There's not fluff. There's not a laundry list of wants like, oh, hey, it would be great if we just had X, Y, and Z. Like, this bond does not include any of that. And it was, again, a 2.5 year process that there was a lot of discussion about, there were a lot of things that we wanted to do, but, that just wasn't what the community wanted. And we realized that, this is going to take it from a $50 million to a $75 million to $100 million. And it's like, no, we as a community cannot do that. We just cannot do that. So we all were very, very made aware of saying, hey, we need to just keep it to these end of life, to bring these facilities back to current, and just then once they're there, what's the plan moving forward?
Yeah, so there's no $1.5 million bronze Rail Man statue that's going out in front of Newton High School, you mean?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Didn't see that in there, but you never know. So, I think this most recent flyer did have it on there, but I have tried to stay on top of it as best as I can as a busy parent, trying to just do the day-to-day and go to work and do the grocery shopping and get my kids where they need to get and take care of, I have a little one. So I understand there's for people that this affects at that level, because day to day is going on, right? Sometimes it's hard to take the time to do this, right? But I think something that I've heard a lot of people talk about, once again, going back to the fact that I do believe this is on the flyer. Erin, what does this cost someone whose property, residential property, is valued, it has an evaluation of $100,000, $200,000? Those are round numbers, and then you can just kind of put in the math of, well, if I have a $300,000 or a $400,000 house. Well, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of people that do, but still yet. Okay, so a $100,000 house, $200,000 property valued house. What is that going to cost the taxpayer?
Yeah, this bond was timed so that it would coincide with the previous bond for the school district falling off. And so the increase to taxpayers is going to be pretty minimal. Okay. For a $100,000 valued home, the monthly cost increase will be $4.12. For a $150,000 house, which is close to Newton's median home value, is about $6.18 a month. $200,000 house, $8.24 a month. A month.
Okay.
So these are very reasonable, small sacrifices that we're asking taxpayers to make. I know that the cost of living is a big issue for people, and there are people with very tight personal budgets. We really understand that. And that's why we have tried to really keep this bond issue tight and make sure that the items in the bond are really needed. You saw even earlier this week at the Board of Education meeting, the superintendent and the maintenance staff have come back with new revisions on making sure that the HVAC systems that are in the bond are truly needed, or could they be pushed off to capital outlay? How much risk is there that they will fail soon rather than later? I mean, this has been evaluated and reevaluated to make sure these are real needs.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to interject something real quick, Matt, before I hand it over to you. But the thing that scares me, I'm just going to say scares me the most, personally as a parent and a tax-paying citizen in USD 373, what do we do if we don't address these issues and then have to pay more money and more money, or monies can't go to one thing or the other because they have to go to this? Because I don't know. I go back to the car analogy, and I'm not interjecting myself here, but the car analogy is you have a car, you put 150,000 miles on it. You're not going to get more than 250,000 miles out of some major replacements, if you can even get that out of that. And then things start failing. And you keep replacing the things that are failing. But then in the end, you've paid more money than it would have cost you just to go get a new car.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying we're getting a new car, but I don't know.
So it's kind of an analogy that's been brought up through this whole process as well. So one of the things that's encouraging about this is, we're taking the car in for maintenance, but it's not just maintenance and adding parts on something that's not going to last. This is going to be replacing the engine. It's going to be replacing the transmission so that vehicle is able to continue for another 150 to 200,000 miles. It was very clear that we said we're not going to go buy a new car. We're not going to go put in a new school. So with that, our options are you can't just drive it till the wheels fall off, then not have a vehicle. So we have to do these things. We have to replace the engine, the HVAC units. We have to replace the transmission, the roofs, those are things that have to be done. The most encouraging part for me is that there is a team, as Erin alluded to, that is been extremely meticulous about identifying every part and piece that's in that vehicle and what needs to be addressed in the most timely manner. So, the information is there. I've seen the spreadsheets on hey, here's a list of all the RTUs that are in our district at every single facility. Here's how old they are. This is how much overdue they are. Here's how much more life they have left in them. So there has been a lot of attention paid to that to best set us up to be proactive and not reactive in addressing that maintenance. So for me personally, that's been extremely encouraging, is just that we're not flying by the seat of our pants and just, winging it.
Yeah. Back to the money, Erin. Okay, I got a question about money. Okay, and this is just purely your guys' opinion. Okay, I'm just wanting to get understand your minds and your hearts and know why you're doing this. But something that I've heard at this point is people asking the question. I don't have kids that go to schools, right? This is not paying for anything that's benefiting me, right? And then you had mentioned too about how, well, it's timed in which one bond falls off and then another comes on. So it's not double stacking, right? You're not stacking it up on people. But just, I guess I want to know what right now, what would you have to say to somebody who is vocalizing that and saying, I don't have kids in the district. I don't have grandkids in the district. This money is not benefiting me. Just to them.
Why should I have to pay for somebody else's kids? I think is what essentially the theme of that is. And what is a community? A community is a space in which we all cohabitate and live within. So I would encourage those people with that mindset to look at it in that regard, that we are a community, we all live here, and I want the best for everybody that's in our community. So if our children need this, then I want to be of service and I want to be able to provide that for them. Just the same way that individual wants economic growth. They want higher paying jobs. They want affordable housing, So I think they all intertwine and intermingle in one way or another. I really think that if we can start having that type of mindset, it will help and encourage cohesiveness.
Yeah, Erin.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all in this together as a community. Those of us who attended public school, that was our community that paid for us to get through school and have decent functional facilities to learn in. And I think this generation of kids deserves the same support from their community. And as Matt said, the strength of the school district has a lot to do with the strength of the community as a whole and its future for growth. We had an event with Harvey County Economic Development earlier this month where we had some business leaders talking about the fact that they are paying attention to whether a school bond passes in Newton and what kind of message that sends to potential economic development prospects about what kind of community we are and what we choose to invest in and what we think is important.
Oh, well, then I had some other questions, but I'll skip one question and go to kind of what Erin just alluded to, and you kind of alluded to it without saying it, but you used some key phrases, right?
Yep.
Economic development. So, looking at economic development in our community, how do you both feel that this affects economic development, or how does this factor into the overall economic development of our community?
We know that school districts are one of the main factors that folks look at when they're thinking about where to live and move their families. And our school district has been doing really hard work. They have a strategic plan and they're trying to work that plan in terms of improving test scores and building up the academic success of the district. And they're having some great success already with that plan. And so this to me is the other leg of the stool, is making sure the facilities are what they should be for the students. That has to do with the residential population growth of the city. We also know that businesses pay attention to the school district when they're looking at where to locate. If they're thinking about opening a new plant or a facility in Kansas, the school district matters. Newton School District is blessed to have a really strong CTE program, and a lot of our local manufacturers tap into that program. Brooks Trade Center is a gem, and our business community really appreciates that. There's been great partnerships between the business community and the school district in Newton, and that's why we've been able to garner a lot of support from the business community for this bond. The Chamber of Commerce Board, for example, has come out with official support for the bond, and we've heard a lot from the business community about this being really important to pass.
Yeah, and it's interesting, not to interrupt, but we didn't cover the tax increase to maybe a business, right? And if the Newton Area Chamber of Commerce, a conglomerate, a big group of businesses in the community are coming out and officially endorsing it, then not only is somebody saying, hey, I'm willing to put my tax dollars here from my residential property, but also
my business.
100%.
So, and I think another thing to highlight is we are seeing economic growth in Newton. There are facilities that are coming in and choosing Newton as their home. Well, one of the key factors that Erin talked about is the school district. So what we want to see for Newton is not just these plants and businesses coming in and setting up shop here, and then us pulling in a workforce from Wichita to come work in Newton. No, we want to see people live in Newton. We want to see people make Newton their home. So rather than have all these business opportunities that we're having other communities come in and work in Newton, no, they're choosing to live here, to send their children to school here. They're choosing to, work, live life here, and that's how a community flourishes. So again, that it all intermingles together in one way, shape, or another. So the more that we can have these open conversations on how that shapes together and be open and transparent and work together to shape that and build that, that's how we're going to see Newton grow and start to thrive. Not just survive, but to start to thrive. I think that for me is my personal mission. Is I don't want Newton just to be in survival mode. I'm ready to see Newton thrive and be a place that's on the map and not just, oh, it's Newton.
Yeah. Okay, so how important do you feel a investment in our school system is to the culture of our community? How much does the school district, the school system, affect the culture of a community overall?
I think it's huge because first and foremost, this is us coming together and saying we choose this. So there are a lot of things that are outside of our control, taxes and stuff like that kind of gets passed, and we really don't have a say so in that. But with this opportunity, with this bond issue, this is a way for us to take a stand as a community and say, yes, there will be an impact to us, but we understand that impact will be far less than the benefits that we get out of this. So to me, it sends a message of we are choosing to take this time and place right now to take a stand together and say, we're in this together. We're going to build this together. I choose this. We as a community came together and said, we want this. We're on the same page. We want to move Newton in this direction. So it's far more than just a number on a ballot or a vote yes or vote no on a ballot. It really sends a message to us as a community. And then let's be real. I mean, others are watching. The surrounding areas are watching. Just to the south of us, there is huge growth that's going on. So there is absolutely no reason why we can't be a part of that growth. I mean, less than 15 miles down the road from this location, things are exploding. And I want to see the same happen in Newton, and this is the fork in the road. Essentially, this is the beginning, the domino that pushes it over, or keeps things as is in status quo.
Can I reframe the question just a little bit different to you, Erin? Okay, so looking at it from the perspective of the students, right? Those youth in our community that are going to these schools and seeing exactly what people are talking about. They go to other schools. They go play basketball. They go play any kind of extracurricular activity you're in is going to take you to these other places. Yep. So, how do you think this bond would affect the culture of our kids in our community?
I think it will make a huge difference. The built environment makes a difference, whether it's a school or a community as a whole. It changes the way you feel about where you are. And if our kids don't get to go to school in an environment with up-to-date, functional facilities, that sends a message. And it sends a message to them about whether the community cares about their education.
Cares about them, maybe.
I heard a phrase once, and that was that there's no such thing as somebody else's kids, that they're all our kids. And I really believe that. I think it's a duty of our community to take care of the students that we have.
Yeah, and I know something that I have a daughter who's in the school, and I have a young one who's just starting in the school, and I have one that just graduated from the school, all Newtonians, right? I think the difficult part is if you don't have somebody that's a grandkid or a kid that's currently going to school. I mean, have you talked with your kids about this? I know I have talked a little bit about it, and I'm not asking you to, put your kids out on Front Street or anything, but we have some aware children nowadays, and they're watching what's going on. They're seeing what you all are doing. They see that, you're getting on board with that. What's the mindset of your youngsters that are currently in school when it comes to this bond? If you could give them a voice, or what they are saying, what are they saying? What are your kiddos saying?
I mean, for me, I think one of the biggest conversations that I've had is not so much what has been said, but what hasn't been said. I don't get a sense of ownership or pride in this school. I think that looking back at some of my experiences, and just when you always want to look back at your high school days and be proud and be like, oh, I was a member of that high school. I took ownership and pride in that, and I feel that that's starting to dwindle within our district, and it's not a sense of home. It's not a sense of pride or ownership. It's just a building in which you attend, and that is concerning for me. I want my child and the rest of our children in our community to feel like that's an extended part of their home. So again, I don't think it's so much as what's been said. It's not what's being said that's the concerning part for me.
What's your kiddo think?
I haven't talked a lot with her about it, to be honest. I'm reminded of the last time we had a bond up for election in Newton for the whole school district, and there were vote yes and vote no signs around town. And I remember driving my daughter to school, and she asked, what are these signs that say vote yes, vote no? And I explained to her about the bond issue, and she just said, why would anyone be against improving the schools? And I know that's a child's take, not an adult's take, but to her, that's her world. That's where these kids live and spend most of their time. in their young adult lives. And so it's really important to them.
Yeah.
They see it as a top priority.
And just to redirect it back at you, when you said what your youngster said was who wouldn't want to invest in school, right? And then what Matt said as far as just, you want to have that culture, that pride, that this is because it's not the school, it's my school, right? So that's her school. And I wonder how much of that is, why wouldn't you want to invest in me?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that probably, if you took the time to sit down with a lot of the students that are currently attending our facilities, it would probably be eye-opening and heartbreaking at the same time. I would venture to say, I'm not going to speak for them, but that would probably be the theme of those conversations. Is it's just a building, and it's not my building. It's not my home. And I want, like Erin said, that's their place. That's where they, just like work for us is where we spend outside of our homes the majority of our time. How uncomfortable it is to show up at a place that doesn't feel like home. You're constantly dragging your feet. It's a chore to go there. Do we want our children experiencing that? They shouldn't. There's a long life ahead of them to experience that.
Just comes back to culture.
Yeah.
I mean, so and this is very open-ended, but I want to ask, how do you feel that this bond, if passed, would affect our community?
I hope that if the bond, that when the bond passes, it will be a real momentum shift for our school district. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think Newton's really picking up steam in a lot of areas, in especially economic development and housing growth, and our downtown is really seeing a great revitalization right now. And I think the school is the next one on the list, that it can be a real turning point in terms of new investment and improvements in our schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it brings just more of what this community has been craving, which is change. It's nice to see. I love driving down Main Street right now and seeing all the older buildings being brought back to life, and I want to see that within the school district as well, seeing these facilities that mean so much to me personally, not just getting older and decaying, but starting to breathe new life and bring new life to the community. And again, I think that just like Erin was talking about earlier, our kids go elsewhere and get to experience that. Well, we also have communities that come in and experience our district. So this then gets people's perspective of Newton to start to change too, that, man, there's something going on in that town, not just in the district, but obviously with the economic growth, you're seeing Main Street grow. There's something happening in Newton. So as Erin was saying, it's just that domino that just, this is next on that list.
So the other part of that, if this bond doesn't pass, how do you feel that it will affect our community?
I'm going to use the train analogy. We're a railroad town, and when a train has momentum, it's hard to stop. And for me, if this bond doesn't pass, it doesn't slow the momentum, it derails it, which is a much more catastrophic event. I really, in the deepest part of my heart, feel that if this does not pass, we are in a world of hurt. And that's very, very scary. And I don't mean that to sound dramatic or over emotional or anything like that, but these facilities, if we do not pass this bond issue, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we are going to have some very serious ramifications of us not keeping the maintenance. And so what this bond does is it gives us the ability to address these things and be proactive. If we don't pass this bond, we are setting ourselves up to be in a state of reactiveness for the indefinite future. And all we're going to be doing is reacting to an HVAC system that goes out. All we're going to be doing is reacting to a hole in the ceiling and having a trash can that we have to empty 3 times a week, in a classroom. And when, how hard is it for a student to pay attention in a perfect environment? If there's a trash can that's just collecting water there, how much more of an impact does that make it difficult for them to focus? And, so again, this isn't meant to be over dramatic or anything like that, but that is the state of these facilities right now. And to me, it scares me to death, and I don't want to live with as much momentum and positivity that's going on, just living with waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah. Because this bond is based around needs, not wants, these needs are not going to go away if the bond doesn't pass. As Matt said, it becomes fixing as it breaks, as we can. And these breakdowns in systems will probably negatively impact learning, like he's saying. It also sends a really unfortunate message to our kids and our teachers and staff about what the community cares about. And, keeping well-trained professional staff and teachers has been a challenge, not just here, but across the state. There's been a teacher shortage. And I think the district is just starting to make some progress on improving teacher salaries and things like that. It doesn't send a good message for those folks and the new staff that we're trying to bring in if our community is not willing to make this type of investment.
Okay, so we're not quite at the end of the program, but we're getting into the long side. So I guess I want to ask you all, because, I think about how this conversation will go, and I try to bring up questions that I think will give you the opportunity to express your heart and your mind. Is there something that you wished I would have asked that I didn't ask? And then if there is something that you wished I would have asked, then just give a response to that.
One thing I would throw out is there are still a number of informational sessions that the school district has planned. I would really encourage anyone who hasn't been to one of these presentations to go out and hear more of these details. Our superintendent does a fantastic job in explaining all the projects, the costs, the process that we went through to create this bond. And so the postcard that the district sent out has those dates listed. But if you go on to the website, usd373.org/bond 2026, it has the list of sessions. There's one on February 5th, February 7th, and February 11th. And you can go out and take a tour and hear more about the plan. It would be very informational for people to attend those sessions.
Well, and just real quick, if somebody got that and they threw it away and they don't have it and they are just listening to this podcast and that's how they're consuming their information, could you give the specific dates and times and locations?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is February 5th. It's a Thursday from noon to 2. That's at the rec center. So it doesn't include a tour. It was just going to be the informational presentation. And then Saturday, February 7th from 10 to noon is at Newton High School. And then Wednesday, February 11th from 5 to 7 at Newton High School.
Okay.
And then our social media pages will always have this information. So the Vote Yes and Our Children, Our Future, Our Schools, those pages will have those sessions as well. So you can always go there. One of the other things that I do want to highlight is we have across the board been very aware that transparency is needed. So we want to make as much information available. So we tried to do that through social media. We tried to do that through informational videos. But there's an active participation that has to happen. Like, if you really want to know these things, you got to take that step and that leap of boldness and that leap of faith to get involved, to show up, to ask questions. Because so often I hear, well, I didn't know anything about this. There's in no way, shape, or form anything that we as a group are trying to do behind closed doors, or that we want to hear from the community, and what the community has to say matters, so, but again, that's a two-way street, so we highly encourage people to get involved in this, to see it for themselves, to ask these questions for themselves, so that they can make the best decision for themselves that they can make. So yeah, we are asking the community to be a part of this. And if you're sitting on one side of the fence or the other, I just ask to be open-minded, like, just really dive in and say, I understand that this may be a small sacrifice that I have to make, but what is the reward? What is the benefit that's going to come from this? And then make that decision.
Okay, so if you guys have ever seen a program before, the last question that I ask the guests every time is just to give you the last word, to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening. You can say whatever you want. It better be profound. No, I'm just joking. But all the same, you can say whatever you want. What do you got for us, Matt?
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to the Newton community. I love this town. I love being a part of this community. I'm a Newtonian through and through. I have been all my life, even during the times where I didn't think I was a Newtonian, I still was. So I'm coming from a place of gratitude and just saying thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of this community. I am here to serve my community. I think that anybody that knows me knows that I have a heart of service. I want the best for everybody. So when I take this step of boldness and vulnerability to step into this and ask something of my community, it's coming from a genuine place. It's coming from no ulterior motives, no self-serving motives. So me taking the step and saying, I need your help. There's a genuine emotion and connection behind it. So I am here of service. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me in any way, shape, or form. I am more than happy to answer questions, sit down for coffee, discuss things. I love to do that. And yeah, we are going to need help on this. There's no questions about that. In order for this to happen, it's going to take a community to make it happen. It can't just be a handful of people that say, we're going to do this. Like, that's not how this works. It's going to take a collective amount of us to come together to say that we're going to do this, and then on March 3rd, show up at the polls and check a box that says, I am committing to this. I am choosing to do this. So I'm asking our community to do that for our children and for our community's future.
Erin?
I love that.
Yeah. Can you top that?
I won't try to top it. Yeah, I had a lot of great opportunities as a Newtonian growing up here and going through Newton School District, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the opportunities I have now to give back and volunteer in my community. And so I would just ask, if you care about our community, if you care about the children of our community, if you care about what the future holds for us as we compete in the Wichita metro area, I would ask that you please get informed about this bond. Please get registered to vote if you're not registered. The deadline is February 10th. And please make a plan to vote for the bond. Early voting starts February 17th, and the election day is March 3rd. And I would request that you vote yes. It's the right choice for our community.
And if you have questions on voter registration, anything like that, just ask. Ask any of us. Ask a family member, whoever. If you've never voted, it took a long time for me to register to vote. And like now that I have registered, now that I have voted, man, it's a very important part of being an adult, being a part of a community. Your voice matters. It matters more than you know. So don't have the mindset of my vote doesn't matter, my voice doesn't matter. It does. It matters significantly.
Yeah.
Especially in local elections like this, we don't typically get huge voter turnout for local elections, even though they're the ones that touch your life most closely.
Yeah.
So we really hope for great voter turnout.
Yeah, we would love to see a record number of voter turnout. And obviously we want the vote yes side, but like I just think it would be great to see one of the biggest voter turnouts that we've had, because that means that we as a community are listening, we are taking active participation, and we are growing.
Agreed. Get out and vote, folks. Well, I just want to conclude the program with saying I appreciate everybody listening to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest on the program today was Matt Hockett and Erin McDaniel with the USD 373 Our Children, Our Schools, Our Future Vote Yes Bond Committee?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so have a good one, everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you.